All right, this week, Volume 7 of the DVD Blu-ray for the show Futurama will be released. Joining me on the phone is one of the stars of the show. In fact, he's the voice behind many of the characters, not to mention he's voiced everyone from Bugs Bunny to both Ren and Stimpy. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program voice legend Billy West.
Yeah, and I get to work with Michael Jordan, the closest thing to a religious figure that we have, Doc.
Oh, well, hey, first off, I want to congratulate you on the success of Futurama, because I know this show was kind of a rough start, but it seems to have come back full force.
Well, it's been on for a really long time. I have to keep remembering that it's been on for like over 10 years or so.
But you guys had a hiatus for a few years there, right?
They were trying to figure out, if they were going to bring it back or not, and I'm really glad they did, because it was my favorite show. Whether I had anything to do with it or not, it would have been my favorite show.
Do you sit at home and do you enjoy just watching the finished product? I know some people, they say, you ask them and they say, well, actually, I don't watch it.
There's tons of episodes I've never seen, and people will say, did you see this one or that one? And I say, listen, I don't mean to sound smug or something, or like I'm too busy to watch my own show. It's really like I don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of projects that I work on at night and stuff, but I catch it. I'm just so proud of it, but it's very surreal to me. It has been for years, like hearing my voice come out of the radio and the TV, and it's like I have to compartmentalize. I have to just pretend it's not me so I can somehow enjoy it. Otherwise, I'll analyze it to death and drive myself nutty.
How many voices do you do on the show?
Well, I do Philip J. Fry. Shut up and take my money.
And Zap Brannigan, Kiss, alert the men. I've made it with a woman. and Dr. Zoidberg, Kravitz, why not Zoidberg? And the Professor Hubert Farnsworth, good news, everyone, bad news. There's a whole bunch of others that pop in and out.
Well, I love Zap Brannigan. Is it true that he was originally intended for Phil Hartman?
Yes, he was. I knew Phil Hartman. I had worked with him before he was going to be involved with Futurama, and then, unfortunately, he was murdered. And but they kind of tailored that after his big radio voice persona, which he loved. But when I talked to him, we had that in common. We had this love of big, dumb radio announcers from a million years ago, who loved the sound of their own voice beyond anything else in the world. And they used to fill the air with sound. Even if they should shut up, they would be making little noises at the end of a word, like coming to the Worcester Centrum, Aerosmith at 7:30 p.m.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, Phil did a lot of that kind of stuff on SNL, and I remember I was watching Magnum P.I. on reruns one day, and there was this old newsreel and this big booming voice, and sure enough, it was Phil Hartman.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, I think he was a radio guy. I know he's an advertising guy, but he sure sounded like he had this love of language and radio. And so when I did Zap Brannigan, I was doing a composite of all the big dumb announcers that I worked with. I was in radio, and the old school, and I just kind of made an amalgam of them. But it did come out to be like what Phil Hartman would have done with it.
Well, you've had an amazing career. How did you get started in the voiceover business? I mean, was this something you always knew you wanted to do, or did you even know this job existed?
No, I didn't know. Well, I knew the job existed because I was aware, even when I was a little kid, I was aware who Mel Blanc was. I zeroed in on that stuff, and when I was old enough to read the credits, I saw, I had just heard 20 voices, and I see like one name, two names, and I went, who the hell are these people? I knew that there were adults responsible for it somehow. But, that was just like something that I could only worship from afar. I had no idea where it came from. And, I only heard of this Hollywood somewhere in the United States. And everything was a big mystery because there was, you couldn't ask anybody in those days, who do I go see about doing voiceovers? It was impossible. Now there's schools and teachers, and I'm glad it's flourishing. I've met a ton of people that really were inspired by me and other guys and women that do what I do, and that's what they want to do. And I said, good luck, maybe they'll get over this whole celebrity stunt casting thing and use real artisans,
How do you feel about that? Because it seems like every time one of the, the big blockbuster animated movies come out, I mean, they kind of pass over, you guys who really are the heart and soul of the voiceover industry.
Well, I have a lot to say about it, but it always comes off as too gripey, and then people will sit there and go, look at this guy. He does everything, and he's complaining, but it's not for me. I don't care about it for me, and I did plenty, and I do plenty, but what about the 19-year-old little firebrand out there somewhere that has to win an Emmy and an Oscar and a Grammy, and then they're a celebrity, and then they can do a cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
And when they have the talent, the natural ability and everything, and it's a star system. But
have you worked with any of these bigger name celebrities that have the natural talent?
Bigger name celebrities, yeah. There's a few of them that really, really understand character work. Really do. Like Mike Myers understands character stuff. Eddie Murphy, of course. Robin Williams, just absolutely out there when he does anything, and that's very cartoony. So, I mean, those are the kind of people I would expect doing it, but if you bring who and what you are to a character and they even draw the character to look like you, there's no artistry to it as far as I'm concerned. It needs alchemy. Like, the producers call us in, and they show us a lead bar on the table and say, we were hoping you could turn this into gold before you left, and we do. And then, like, when a celebrity comes in and there's a lead bar on the table, they leave the room and it's still lead because they didn't do anything to it.
Gotcha.
And I'm really not, like, pissing away about myself. It's just that I feel bad for all these kids that are writing letters to me and saying, I'm dying to get into that business. I've been inspired. I want to do it. And it's like, I hate to see a craft go down the drain, like a perfectly beautiful art form.
No, yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned Mel Blanc, a few minutes ago, and I wanted to ask you, because you've done a couple of Mel's characters, and, you've done some legendary characters like Popeye and Woody Woodpecker. How does it differ for you when you approach a character that's been established for decades?
It's very daunting, because everybody that hears it has their own perception of what that character was. Like when I was doing Bugs Bunny in Space Jam, every Tom, Dick, and Harry would open up the door and go, he's too Jewish. Well, he sounds too Brooklyn. He sounds threatening. And it's like, I just wanted to go, shut up.
Finally, there's something I wanted to mention. Well, actually, I have to ask you this real quick, because I know you're a musician, and I've actually seen you on YouTube playing with Brian Wilson. Is it true you played with Roy Orbison?
Yeah, I played with Roy Orbison. I wasn't in his band. I was with Brian in that band. When we played on Letterman and in a few shows at that time. I mean, I was playing with one of my, he is my greatest musical inspiration. But, I opened up for Roy Orbison. I had a band that opened up for, like, Jan and Dean, when the oldies acts were coming back. And it was great. I mean, I really met all the movers and the guys who changed the sound of music, and it's easy in this day and age to forget them, because every music can be created at the touch of a button. Nobody has to deliberate too long and hard about sounds, but people used to have to experiment. What took somebody 9 months in the studio, like Stevie Wonder, to find a particular sound, they can do it at the touch of a button now.
Well, Billy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. Is there any chance you could do a quick promo for us?
Hey, everybody, this is your old pal Billy West from Futurama. And as Philip J. Fry would say, you're listening to the Joe Cook program. Even out in space, we get him out here. Right, Zap? That's right. I listen to him. I like him. He inspires me when I go with the ladies. Careful, alert the men. I've made it with a woman.